So hello and welcome to another podcast from the Engineering Department at Durham University. As always, my name is Chloe and today we're joined by Laurie Hill, who is one of the department's alumni. Welcome Laurie, how are you?
I'm great, thanks Chloe. Thanks very much for having me.
That's all right, thank you for being here. Okay, so today we're hoping to talk a bit about your experiences studying engineering at Durham, as well as a bit about what you've been up to since graduating. So to start with, why did you decide to study engineering at Durham?
That's a really good question. For me, Durham was a great size of city to start off with, a similar size to places I'd lived before, so it felt quite friendly. And then in terms of engineering, it was a general course, which I really liked. I knew that there was potentially an option to specialise in renewables at the end of it. So I looked at that. I looked at the league tables and saw that it was high up. And then I also really liked the collegiate system. So opportunities for sport and societies. And I really liked that. So it seemed to be the perfect fit, really.
Yeah, no, they're all really good reasons. And yeah, the general course is really good if you're not 100% sure what you want to do from the beginning. So that's a good one. So which stream did you choose to specialise in and why?
So I'd kind of had an inkling in the back of my mind that I wanted to do renewables since about sixth form. And when I started thinking about engineering, I knew that wind energy and renewables were kind of up and coming, and that seemed like a really cool thing to do. So I did specialise in new and renewable in the end. And as I went through the course, I tried out different things, but the kind of electromechanical mix in new and renewables really sold it to me.
Oh, that's great. And can you tell us a bit about your final year project?
Yeah, of course. It's exciting to remember and think about it, actually. So it was in wind power, but kind of something completely different to what I'm doing now. So it was condition monitoring and using MATLAB to evaluate SCADA signals and power curves to try and predict wind turbines failing before they actually failed. So that was quite exciting.
That sounds very interesting. And what sort of societies and extracurricular activities did you do while you were at Durham?
Great. Well, I think it's worth saying that I think I probably gained more knowledge and skills required for my current role during the sports and societies stuff at Durham. So if you're not involved already, although I'm sure all of your listeners and viewers are, then get involved in them. Lots, really. I love football. I played college football. I did frepping, so I did onboarded the new freshers in second year. I played lacrosse and table tennis. I was on the college welfare team and many others, really. Language classes as well. That was cool. After lectures, after hours, language classes were great.
And what are some of your favourite university memories?
It's a very good question. That's a very good question. I think being head frep in second year was great and actually set me on the path to be the project manager that I am today, or trying to be at least. Lots of dancing and meeting some of my best friends now and my long-term partner as well at university. Great memories.
Oh, that's lovely. So since leaving us a few years ago, you've been working for Ørsted, I believe, initially as a graduate and now as a project lead. How did you find the move from university to work?
It's a really interesting one, and I think it's different for everybody, and I think it's challenging for everyone in its own way. It's very different, I would say, the world of work from university, and I'm sure that your viewers have heard that before, but it is really interesting to go from a completely academic subject and then apply it in the real world. And I remember my first week, my first few months, there's all of these things like, just meetings and figuring out where to go and print stuff and getting your laptop, etc., that are are so different. And I think actually, and something that the Durham engineering course does really well, and Durham does well in general, is that the world of work is mostly about communication. So talking to people, talking to team members, talking to external stakeholders and internal stakeholders. It's a lot about communication. And I think that if you keep in mind that not only when you're applying for jobs, but also in that transition, it's it's important to communicate. I think, for example, the third year projects that we do are really good examples of that, of kind of working in a team and working together. It's great training for the world of work.
Absolutely. And what did the Ørsted graduate program involve?
So lots of fun, firstly, and then there are 3 kind of tracks, so they call it. So there's the innovation track, where we learn how to think outside the box, because they want us to be innovators within the company. And then there is the learning track, so we're given mentors and buddies and kind of allowed to learn and develop. And then the main one alongside those 2 is the business track. So it's your role within the business, and you're given responsibility and accountability from day one, which is great. And you're kind of treated like just like a normal employee, but also you have that amazing network of graduates as well to get on with and to learn from. So it's a great experience. And then the business part of it, you either have 2 or 3 rotations, so 3 rotations of 8 months or 2 of a year, and you get to see different parts of the business and you get to choose where you want to go. And it's really good because you can pick up links between things, and you come out of it with a very unique set of experiences, and you can often follow projects through the timeline and get a really broad experience early in your career.
Well, that sounds really good. And how did you find the process of applying for graduate roles and graduate jobs?
I think I would say difficult. There's not many people who I've met that found it easy. I think for me, although I knew I wanted to get into renewables, I didn't really know where I wanted to go or what I wanted to do. And I think that there is a big focus among students of applying to grad schemes and getting on grad schemes. And so, although I'm a huge proponent of the Ørsted graduate program, I also would like to use the platform to say that it's definitely not the be all and end all. And if there's an industry that you want to get into, or an industry you want to work in, then there are so many ways of getting into that industry. So it's really important to remember that the vast majority, 99.5% of all jobs, are not graduate programs. And so if you want to get into something, it's not only the grad programs.
That's a really good point, that. And how does work differ now between sort of the graduate program you're doing and your current role as a project lead?
That's interesting too. So I would say that I now have more responsibility, and the main difference is that I have gone from kind of delivering work to now delivering work and starting to lead people and lead projects and scopes. I think that's the key difference. I was given some responsibility as a graduate and kind of growing responsibility as I learned, but now there's very much, it's also the route that I've chosen, is to get that more responsibility and more accountability as I move up through the business. So that's what's exciting and challenging at the moment.
Oh, that's really good. And can you tell us a bit about the projects you've worked on?
Yeah, sure. So the project I spent longest on is Hornsea 2, which is an offshore wind farm. I've seen it on the news in the past couple of weeks. I think Prince William was out on a crew transfer vessel on BBC the other day. So that was cool. And because I worked in it for a long time and kind of transitioned graduate roles between different stages of that project, I was actually able to get some offshore experience and go on board a vessel and kind of see life at the sharp end, which was really cool to see. And then more recently, I've stepped back into the development side, so that was in the construction phase, and I've been kind of taking on a bit more responsibility in the development phase of different projects. There's another project I was working on in the Hornsey zone just off the coast of Grimsby, which will be built sometime before 2030. And then I've just had the opportunity to move into new markets and work with some colleagues who are working in our Asia Pacific markets, which are really up and coming in offshore wind in the next kind of 10 or 15 years. So that's very exciting as we start to go global.
Sounds very good. And finally, what advice would you give students and graduates when it comes to applying for jobs?
I think assess all of the options are out there, and I've touched on that a little bit before, is kind of when you're starting a search, throw the net wide, I think, because there's so many ways of getting into different industries. So if I take renewables, for example, it's almost impossible to believe how many different jobs there are in it. You can, you can be in renewables because you're a person who talks to fishermen and makes sure that they're out of the way when our construction vessels come through, or you can be out there on boats, or you can be project managing in an office, or you could, every industry needs every skill set. And the great thing about engineering is that you can prove that you're versatile, particularly at Durham, and we have that technical knowledge, but we also have the ability to move into other roles as well. And so the first thing is assess all of the different options, try and figure out what it is that you might like. And also there probably aren't any wrong answers. So they talk about this kind of matrix career now, where you get different dots and you connect them up together. And so whatever dot you start out on, it's not necessarily a linear career as well. So I think that's important to remember. Number two is to tailor applications. So I think employers are really looking out for, in a very crowded market, whether you're applying for graduate schemes or any other job, is to set yourself apart by it. It's easy to copy and paste your CV for every application, but if you can have a little mini paragraph at the top of the CV and look at the company's wording on their websites, do some research and really tailor your skill set to what they want, use their company lingo, use the words that they use. And it's not about selling yourself as something that you're not, but show yourself in the best light. So that's with throughout the CV, kind of make it relevant as you can to the position. It's obviously hard without work experience, but show what you have, and show what skills and things that you've gained from extracurricular stuff as well, and also reflect on those skills, because it's easy to give a list of skills, but I think it's important to show what you've gained from that skill and how you've gained it. And then thirdly is don't give up, because if it can be a very frustrating experience. And I had friends who applied for literally hundreds of jobs, and just don't give in with it, because even if it's not grad schemes that you get, you can still get into the industry that you want to get into. Just don't give up, keep plugging away and get your first dot on your career ladder. Then you can move up or sideways or across from there. So yeah, good luck everyone.
That's really good advice. Thank you so much for joining us, Laurie. For anyone who hasn't heard of Ørsted as well, it's a really interesting company, so definitely have a look on their website. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. We really hope you've enjoyed this podcast. As always, be sure to keep an eye on our social media pages for future episodes and for more news about our department.